Hello and welcome back to High School History. Today we are going to be talking about something really important, and that is the CBSE sample paper 2020-21 for History Class 12. So a couple of changes that have taken place which we will look at in detail in this video. We will also be discussing some of the questions that have been asked in the sample paper in a little more detail. So stay tuned, stay on the channel and keep watching. So we know of late CBSE has been conducting some exam reforms. In fact, in the 2020 exam itself was part of those exam reforms where they introduced multiple choice type questions. They changed the way they were marking some of these questions, assigning marks to them weightage wise. Also, all of these changes were taking place. And this year there have been further changes made by CBSE. It also is interesting because it comes at such a time when we're all struggling against the COVID-19 situation. Schools are closed all across the country. Many schools have been able to conduct online classes, but there are still many students who are not yet being able to connect with their teachers on a regular basis due to different reasons. So I'm hoping that my videos in the meantime will be useful for you. You can have a look at my channel. I have covered most of the chapters. I think it's the last two chapters that I'm yet to make videos on, which will be coming soon on the heels of the sample paper video. So let's look at how the sample paper this time has changed. Compared to other subjects, our paper, history paper, has not changed so much, but definitely there are some elements worth taking note of. So let's see what's going on here. The time allowed continues to be for 3 hours, so you can expect a 3-hour paper in March. And a maximum of 80 marks, and as per our information so far, you will have to go to your exam center to give the exams. CBSE has not planned that the exams can be taken online from home, at least not as yet. I think CBSE will take a call on this, as the situation develops over the next couple of months, whether it is safe enough to bring the students in under the same roof to get them to attempt, such a crucial examination. So as of now, we have to go with the belief that we will be going to the center to sit for the exams. So let's see if the instructions are any different from earlier. I think largely because just a couple of question types have changed. Instead of the 5 sections that we used to have earlier, A, B, C, D, E, there is a new section F. As we go through the question, we will see how that gets expanded. So section A is objective type questions, which will carry 1 mark each and will be answered in 1 sentence or 1 word. So question number 1 to 16 are these 1 mark questions, but what's interesting is that you are asked to attempt only 15 out of those 16. So there's one question you may decide not to do. This is a departure from earlier, where I think there were 2 MCQ questions with had an internal choice, but here you have a more general choice happening. Section B are questions 17 to 19. They are case based or source based questions. We are already familiar with this kind of questioning because source-based questions have been part of our history question paper for many years. So don't worry when you get a case-based sort of name, right? We are already used to doing these kind of questions. So this is really nothing new. Then you have multiple choice questions. Now this is interesting because you are again given certain material. Each question has 4 subparts and attempt any 3 subparts from each question, right? So they have 4 subparts. So these instructions are important. So there's quite a bit of change, though not the scary change as we were expecting, right? So each question has 4 subparts in section B, which is case based and source based. And of these 4, we have to attempt only 3 subparts from each question. Now in section C, we go back to the old system where you have, they carry 3 marks and should not exceed 100 words. Then section D, this is for 8 marks. Then section E are now your regular source based questions, right? So this is interesting. You've got 2 places where you will be asked source based questions, and this continues again to be the same. You will be assigned 5 marks for each of these source-based questions. Here there is no MCQ or objective type. Here you will be writing descriptive answers. And then finally you have a section F, which is a map question, which includes both identification as well as location of the important places marked on the map. Remember, there is also on the CBSE website where the curriculum document is, they also have a detailed list of maps. So you should definitely know those places, practice those maps enough. So what really they've added is that case-based and source-based questions are in two places now. One where you will write descriptive answers, and in section B, here you will get MCQ based questions. So major change really happens here. This was a section which was not existing earlier. This has been introduced only now, but this is not going to be difficult, right? So don't lose your night's sleep saying, okay, what will I do now? Ask your questions to your teachers, ask your questions in the comments, and we will try our best to answer them. So let's start with section A. You are being reminded here again that you attempt any 15 questions, and these can be in one word, one sentence. So the first question is, ancient Mesopotamian texts refer to copper coming from a place called Magan. So which place are they referring to? So you just have to write one word, right? And if we look at the marking scheme, it says Magan refers to Oman. So you could even just write Oman, or you could write a short sentence. Going back to the sample paper, whom did Ashoka appoint to send the message of Dhamma? Well, I would suggest you write the entire sentence, that Ashoka appointed Dhamma Mahamatas to spread the message of Dhamma. Right? Doesn't take that long to write it down. Then you have question number 3, read the following information and mention the context in which the statement is connected. So many Kushan rulers also adopted the title Devaputra, or the son of God. Here you could talk about the attempt to gain legitimacy and acceptance among the subjects. So let's see if the marking scheme also says the same. Divine kings, which is perfectly fine, right? Remember, even though the marking scheme mentions it a certain way, when the corrections happen, they will be far more, because here they're giving just one context. You can give another correct context as well. All of these different options, which are legitimate, which are logical, they are all accepted as the correct answer. So don't worry that you have to stick to the marking scheme, right? Then you have question number 4. This is an MCQ. So which among the following was a strategy adopted by Brahmins to enforce the Varna order? Was human creation? Obviously not. Varna, they always claimed, was a divine creation. Advised kings to punish those who violated, persuaded that their status was determined by birth, persuaded that people that their status was determined by occupation. So definitely 1 and 2, option A and D, are not relevant. And then you have these 2 left, of which the third appears more plausible, that the status was determined by birth and you could do really nothing about it, right? Okay, let's now look at question 5. So this is an image based question which has been coming in the previous years, a year as well, in fact. So look at the given image and state what the symbol of stupa stands for. The options here have not been given, so it's not an MCQ. So here again it's a text based answer, and the answer would be Buddha's Mahaparinibbana, right? So let's see. Yeah, the stupa stands for Mahaparinibbana. And you will also notice that right at the bottom of this question, you have a question for visually impaired. So we obviously have a lot of blind students who sit for the exams as well. So naturally, they won't be able to see this image. So in lieu of that, they are given another text-based question, which is MCQ-based. Now, please remember, if you are not a visually impaired student, please do not attempt this, right? Because papers of visually impaired students are identified separately and they are checked separately, right? So you can't fool the examiner and attempt this one because it seems to be easier and get away with it, right? You will be marked 0 if you attempt a question meant for blind students and you don't have any visual impairment. Then you've been given an incorrect statement here. Correct the following statement and rewrite it. So what is it? According to Jainism, asceticism and middle path are required to free oneself of the cycle of karma. So this is obviously not what Mahavir Jain said. Middle path was Buddha's message, right? So you will remove Jainism from the sentence, you will add Buddhism and rewrite the sentence. Then you again have an MCQ question. What is the source to know about the Veerashaiva tradition? Again, this will be a one sentence question. Now differentiate between Nayakas and Amaranayakas, basically one difference each. So this will be 2 sentence answers. So in one sentence you talk about the Nayakas, in the other sentence you talk about the Amaranayakas. Remember, it's only a 1 mark question, so don't go into writing 4 or 5 differences. Just one difference. Now, assertion and reasoning question came last year as well. and I know your teachers are giving you enough practice with assertion and reasoning as well. So read both the statements carefully, and then you have 4 options where A and R are true, and R or reason is the correct reasoning for the assertion or the statement that has been given to you. Both A and R are correct, but R is not the way you explain the statement. And then of course C and D is about one being true and the other being not true, right? So let's try and attempt this together. Archaeologists suggest that in the northeastern corner of the urban core, rich traders lived. The reason given is numerous tombs, mosques, and fine Chinese porcelain have been found here. So I would feel that definitely this is, the correct one. No, it doesn't actually, because it says just rich traders, right? And here they're only mentioning Chinese porcelain, right? So this would be, the foreign traders might have been living here, right? So let's see what the correct answer is. If we are right, yes, we are right. So that both A and R are correct, but R is not the correct explanation, because read very carefully. This is only saying rich traders lived. And when you're talking about tombs, mosques, and fine Chinese porcelain, this is probably where the foreign traders and most likely the Chinese traders would have lived. Okay, so therefore A is correct. In fact, both are correct, but R is not the correct reason for the statement. Question number 11 again is straightforward MCQ. Then you have a fill in the blank question which continues from last year. Then show how the powers of Jotdars were more effective than that of the Zamindars. Again, it's a 1 mark. There were many reasons listed in your textbook, but just give any one, right? It's a 1 marker. Your examiners will accept as the correct answer any one reason you give. Match the columns. So you've been given these options, okay, A and B columns, and now you see what matches. This layout of course has changed since last year, where they said okay 1B, 2C, and in every sentence, every statement you would have that. But now what they've done is 1, 2, 3, 4, that is these have been made into columns, and what you have in column 2 has been converted into rows, right? So nothing very confusing. So let's see who were the leaders. Delhi, you have Bahadur Shah Zafar. So 1C. From the first option, it seems clear that this one will be the correct answer. But let's continue. Kanpur, you have Nana Sahib. 2 will be D. So yeah, 2 is D here. Then Ara, you have Kunwar Singh. So 3 is B. And Lucknow, you have Bijris Qadr. So that's A. So obviously your option B is the correct answer, right? So just the layout of the question has changed. Nothing very confusing about it. Right, now you have question number 15, which gives you again a statement. Mahatma Gandhi illustrated his tactical wisdom by picking on salt monopoly. Now, according to the statement, which of the following statements actually correctly proves this? So that the state monopoly over salt was deeply unpopular, people were forbidden from making salt for even domestic use, and salt was not an essential item. So what are the options here? So which statement or statements is or are correct to prove this? So I would say the third one doesn't seem relevant at all. So I would choose option A, 1 and 2 only. So let's see if we are right. Question number 15 in the sample paper. Yes, A is correct with option 1 and 2 only. So you see, it's not that difficult. It's actually quite easy. It's actually going to be quite scoring for you, right? So contrary to what a lot of people are afraid of, that you may not get enough marks this year, not correct, at least not in my opinion. Who among the following declared separate electorate was a poison that had entered the body politic of our country? So this again is a straightforward MCQ question, but I want you to see that all of these objective type MCQ questions that you have here, they are based on a pretty close reading of the textbook. So read your textbooks very, very carefully, and I hope you will also be watching my videos on the chapters to consolidate what you are reading in your textbook. Now we come to the case-based section B, which was case-based, source-based, and here read the instructions. Read the following excerpt from the Prayag Prashasti carefully and answer any 3 questions. So you've been given 4, but attempt any 3. So you've got question A, B, C and D, and you have the freedom to attempt any 3. So these are all 3-mark questions. So each question is worth 1 mark. So you've read the passage. It's come earlier as well, Prayag Prashasti. So not a very difficult passage to interpret. And the questions are very straightforward. This inscription is known as Prayag Prashasti, as a Prashasti because, right? So what is a Prashasti? Think about what was the definition of a Prashasti and therefore which one is the correct answer. Then the next question, this excerpt mentions that he is equal to the gods. This projects what element of kingship, right? So this means claiming high status for identifying with a variety of deities, means claiming themselves godlike, or claiming a number of titles. So definitely not the third one. So it couldn't be the fourth one either, all of the above. So it's about these two. So let's see what the marking scheme is telling us. Option A. So in fact, in all of these parts, it's option A which is, or option 1 which is the correct one. This means he's equal to gods. This is a means of claiming high status by identifying with a variety of deities, right? So between these two, the first sentence, the first option is the most likely one. So remember, sometimes MCQ is not about, okay, all three options are incorrect and only one is true. Sometimes the difference may not be that apparent. So then you have to take the, the option which is most likely to be true. We have another assertion reasoning based question now, this time based on a passage. So don't worry about that. So what is the assertion? He is possessed of compassion, that is, the king is possessed of compassion. And reasoning he gives is, he is the giver of many hundred cows, his mind has received ceremonial initiation to uplift the misery of the poor, the forlorn and the suffering. So I think A and R are obviously true, and R is the correct explanation for A, right? So here also option A will be the, option 1 will be the correct answer. Then consider the following statements. So there are two statements given here and you have to choose which one, which ones are correct. So whether A and B are correct or whether only B is correct, right? Then question 18 is another image based question. So now you can see there will be most likely two image based questions. So look at all the illustrations and pictures in your textbook very carefully, study them, try to frame your own questions as to what kind of questions you could get from the image based questions. So this is obviously Shah Abbas and Jahangir's painting. This painting is also called Jahangir's Dream. So the first question is that the Mughal painting is given the name of Jahangir's Dream because, so it shows the two rulers Jahangir and Shah Abbas in a friendly embrace, which was Jahangir's desire. This gives us a sense of authenticity to a scene which was fictional, as the two rulers had never met. An inscription in this miniature records that Jahangir commissioned Abul Hassan to render in painting a dream that the emperor recently had. Now, I'm beginning to believe that maybe all of them are correct. So let's see the marking scheme and see if I'm right about this one. So this is question number 18, part A, and we have chosen option 4. Question 18, part A, question option number 4. So yeah, so that is the correct answer. So similarly the questions go. So you can see that the initial image based question in the 1 mark section was a very simple, straightforward one. Here you have to study the painting in more detail, right? So the animals seen in the painting stand for a realm in which both the strong and the weak exist in harmony, an ideal world where animals and humans live together, both 1 and 2, none of the above. I would assume that the first one is most obvious, where the lion and the lamb simile is often used in the Bible and the Quran to show the justice of the king, that the strong are never able to harm the weak and therefore they can exist in harmony, right? So you want to go back and check in the marking scheme whether we are right. So B1, yes, and the correct answer for B is definitely option 1. So not that humans and animals will live in harmony, right? What does the globe beneath the feet of both the emperors suggest? Right, the dream of Jahangir to conquer the whole world by embracing his rival Shah Abbas. Globe is used by the painter to provide depth in the painting. I don't think so. The globe is representing an ideal world of humans and animals existing together. Definitely not. So definitely C will be, 1 will be the correct answer to part C. And then comparison of the physique and posture of both the emperors in the painting portrays the superiority of Jahangir over Shah Abbas, as shown by the difference in the physical size. I think this sentence is actually there in the textbook when they're describing this painting. The dream of Jahangir of his rival Shah Abbas in a friendly manner to retain Kandahar. Feels likely. So let's see if answer D is actually option 3. Yes, that's right. So therefore we see that both those statements are actually true. So this is how you really carefully have to think about, when you get this kind of a question based on a painting. Right, so not always very straightforward, but remember you do have 4 options of which you do only 3. So do those 3 which you know, leave out the 4th one, right? Thankfully we don't have to do all 4. And just as with any other visual based question, this one also has an option for visually impaired candidates. So if you're visually impaired, please attempt this one. Don't worry about the picture one. So whoever's writing for you, please tell them that in advance. There will be questions for you specifically, so they should only read out those questions to you. And if you are not visually impaired, do not even waste your time reading this, right? This is not meant for you. Question number 19, again you've been given a source from the textbook, and again you have a set of 4 questions. All of them are MCQ based, right? And you choose the correct answer and you attempt any 3 from A, B, C and D. Now let's come to section C. Section C is regular 3 mark and section D is regular 8 mark questions. You are used to doing all of this, so there's really nothing new and crazy reforms that the CBSE has brought up. So very straightforward questions, and you have to do all 4 because I don't think, does it give you any choices? Yeah, section D of course has internal choices, so each of these questions has a choice, but you need to do questions 24, 25 and 26. Section C has no choice. All these 4 questions are compulsory, right? So again, sources for Mauryan history. Then nobility was recruited consciously by Mughal rulers from diverse ethnic and religious groups. This is more from the Akbar section of the chapter. Then you have battle between the hoe and the plough. This has also come in the past. In fact, all these 3 questions have come in board exams in the past. So nothing very new here. Rumors also is a very popular question with the CBSE. So nothing very revolutionary happening here. So pretty simple, straightforward questions. But remember, you are going to write your answer in about 100 words. Again, don't make these very long, otherwise you're going to be wasting your time, right? Section D, 8 markers. So here you have internal choices, and they've also given you the marks breakup for some of the questions which have parts, right? So again, very straightforward questions. Explain the most important idea of Jainism and its impact on Indian thinking. So basically they are wanting to talk about ahimsa, right? So expand upon that. So most important idea of Jainism is ahimsa, right? So go on to explaining in simpler words what is ahimsa. So it seems like a straightforward one, but isn't really. You've got to think about this question. That ahimsa means not harming living and non-living things as well, because Jains believe that even non-living things have pran, have some life, right? And then the second part is impact on Indian thinking. So here how non-violence, you can talk about vegetarianism, right? So these kind of things. In the same option, we have on Buddhism. So be lamps unto yourselves, as all of you must work out your own liberation. So explain the teachings of Buddhism. So I would recommend that you explain all of the teachings of Buddhism that you've studied about, and not just that he perhaps did not believe in God, and he felt that you need to just find the right teacher or a series of right teachers to really get set on the path of enlightenment. Then question number 25, you have Mahanabbi Dibba again, which has come multiple times in the board exams, and Virupaksha temple and Vithala temple in the royal center of the Vijayanagar. So distinctive features of these 2 temples. So again, this is a new question. This has not come in the past, but definitely both the questions are from Vijayanagar. And then you have the chapter, questions from the chapter on Gandhiji, which is chapter number 13. And both the questions are from there. So examine the different kinds of sources from which the political career of Gandhiji and the history of the national movement could be reconstructed. So different kind of sources. So that's where the end of the chapter is. So you're looking at police records, biographies, letters, and so on, right? So all of those newspaper articles. So please go ahead and discuss those in great detail. And then Quit India movement was a genuinely mass movement. This is a sentence right from the textbook, so justify that. How did different sections of society get involved in the Quit India movement, and therefore it made a truly representative, truly mass movement in the country. No other movement had ever come as close. Section E is a straightforward source-based questions, which you are so used to doing, so don't worry about this at all. So you're going to be quoted these passages like earlier, and you will get questions 3 questions, all of which are compulsory, so don't leave out any questions here, for 5 marks. And remember, see how they are numbering the question numbers here. So use the same questioning number scheme in your answer sheet as well. So don't write 27A or 27B. You have to write 27.1, 27.2 and 27.3. Because otherwise, the examiner sometimes might get confused and you may lose marks, right? So again, you have 3 passage based questions as earlier. So 15 marks actually can be in your pocket straight away, right? And then you build upon that. And then finally, you have section F, which is the map section. So you've got the political map of India, which is given to you, and you are supposed to locate and label the following with appropriate symbols. So here you have a choice. So in A, you can either choose Lothal or Sanchi. In B, it's either Agra or Calcutta. C, of course, does not have a choice. C is compulsory. And then in part 2, you are given a map of India with 2 places marked, and you are given a hint, and they are centers of the national movement. Identify and write their correct names. And as usual, visually impaired students are given a more text-based option, so they don't have to really do a map. So in the final analysis, if we look at the big changes that have taken place, really not so much. Only they've added more objective type questions to your question paper. They've added a new section B, which will be about case study and source based questions, which is more in MCQ style. Whereas the 3-mark questions remain as they are, the 8-mark questions remain as they are, and the regular source based question where you're supposed to give text based answers remain the same, and so do the maps. So nothing to be afraid about. All the best preparing for your board exams. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications icon. See you soon.